Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, I love that. Everyone's still awake. All right, I'm going to ask you, if you are a solo entrepreneur, can you stand up? You work by yourself, no one else. Just you and your business. Lovely. Okay, take a seat. If you have up to 5 people in your business, stand up. Okay. Thank you. Between 5 and 10. All right. Thank you. And more than 10. And some people didn't feel like standing up. Or you don't have businesses. All right. Let me ask you, each of you then, for each tier, when you look at your business, what is your greatest asset? What is your greatest asset? Your people. Anyone else other than greatest asset? Oh, who said that? Thank you. That is your greatest asset because you are the drivers of your business. And if your mindset is not in a positive, resilient mindset, your business follows you. So the further you stretch, remember Renee that stood up here earlier? She is a perfect example of having that mindset and pushing through all challenges. When I put this together, I was like, we could do a 1-minute pause, but I'm scared to do this because people might fall asleep. So I'm going to change that instead. I'm going to ask you all to stand. Take a nice stretch. Oh. Lovely. And what I'd like you to do is to just be still in yourself and just take a look around the room and see if you spot something you've not seen before, even though you've been in this room all day. Take your time to just really just look around. Raise your hand if there's something you haven't seen, you're seeing for the first time in this room. Anyone raise your hand if you're looking around and saying, oh, I never noticed that before. So people who haven't got their hand, everything they've seen, they've seen every single thing in this room. Who's here then? Take a seat, everyone, thank you. Who here has seen everything? When they looked around, there was nothing new that they saw. Nothing new. So what color's the carpet? What's on the carpet? You don't know? So I didn't ask you to be in your head. I asked you to be present. And the reason for that is, a lot of times we're in our heads and we feel that we know what's going on. We feel that we are present. But as entrepreneurs, we need to keep our minds clear to be able to see everything around us and also be conscious of our thoughts. And thank you for that, because what can happen is we think we're here, we think we're present, but we're actually thinking about something else. I know that, so I don't need to look at it. I've been there, I don't need to worry about it. But when we take the time to be present, we can open ourselves up to more opportunities. But a lot of times we think we know. All right. So, when I was a child, which is one of them is me, as you can see, I grew up in the 70s. My parents taught us a really amazing lesson. And at the time, I did not know it was a gift. They told myself and my siblings, this is one of my sisters, there's 4 of us together. They told us as young, so young that we did not contest it. We just believed it. They told us, whatever you want in this world, the only limitation is in your mind. And so with that, armed with that, since we were so young, when faced with challenges, it was, how do we overcome this? How do we keep moving? Because the limitation was within us, it wasn't about others. So at 16, I decided to become an accountant. I failed my A-levels, but because I knew I wanted to become an accountant, I pushed forward. Became an accountant, was working, decided I wanted to move from, I used to work at at The Economist, decided I wanted a new job. I would go for interviews, and what people saw was a black female. My name and my look are not the same. And I would hit racism. But knowing the limitation was in my mind, not in others, I pushed forward. Starting my own business 18 years ago, called Business and People Development Associates. In 2008, 2009, when we had the economic crash, when there was no business and no money, it was the only limitation in my mind that kept me going. Knowing that the only limitation is in your mind allows us not to become victims of circumstance. It allows us to keep pushing. Now, from the people in this room and the people who've been in business for a long time, you know that. But sometimes we take that for granted. It's really knowing. And even Ishmael, who was up here earlier, said when Denise asked him about what's important, how to go global, it's how we think. So really remember, when you hit a wall, the only limitation is in your mind. It's not about not having money. It's not about that. It's how do you keep going? So if there's one more thing you're going to take away today, please, is the only limitation is in your mind. And so I'm going to ask you to look at the person and just look at them and say, the only limitation is in my mind. And to look to another person and say the same. And say it this time like you mean it. And one more time. Lovely. So, why are we talking about that? Like, leadership is a set of mindset and behaviors. And there's so many things in business. There's finance, marketing, operations, customers. Go on and on and on and on and on. But the thing that pulls that all together and governs that is your mindset, and your mindset drives your behaviors. And that is why it's so important to talk about this. With my coaching clients, on any kind of leadership development that I do, on entrepreneurship development, I always start with mindset. The framework I normally use is mindset and personal development, then business development, and then your CEO mindset. A lot of time when people talk about business, they focus on the business, the external. But it's the internal that drives the external. So when you're building yourself and you're building your business, ensure that you are building yourself too. Because your business can only go as far as you take it. So the more you push yourself, the more you get up and keep moving and keep going forward, your business can go with you. I was telling my stepson just the other day, he's back from university, and I was talking about, pushing and resilience. Because at least, lately we had where the American visas, student visas appointments were put off, and he was getting all upset. And I was saying, don't worry, it will turn around, it will turn around. So we have to make sure that even if things are happening that we have no control over, how do you keep control of this? Now, the two areas I want to talk about today are something called a growth mindset and positive intelligence. Now, there's loads of schools of thought on different things around mindset, but these are the two that I kind of anchor in, especially working with coaching clients. The growth mindset is about when happenings happen, learning how you push through them. Learning to look at that situation and pushing through. And the positive mindset, positive intelligence, is around staying positive no matter what is happening. And not a woo-woo positive, everything's rah-rah, but not feeling it. There's a strategy behind it. And I really want to share those with you. So when you think about your success, is it to do with your ability or to do with your effort? Who says it's ability? Who says it's effort? Lovely. And if you're on the effort side, and I think that shows already here, that you operate more from a growth mindset perspective, that you turn those challenges into something positive. Now, sometimes things happen. I can't. Technology is too confusing. I'm seeing somebody just reeling back then. I can't. And when we're in that I can't mode, our minds shut down. I was talking to somebody today, and they were talking about a setback. And because of that setback, they pulled back. But now they started to think, I need to do something different. I need to get back out there. I have a client right now. She's owed about $10 million. The client has done some very underhanded things, and they are now in court. $10 million she's owed. On last week, Friday, her phones were cut because they had no money. What would you do if you were in that situation? What would you do? Find a way to get back that 10 million? What else would you do? Your phones have been cut. What do you do? Say that again? Oh, go with your garden and plant things. Great. You know what she did? She bakes. Now, her business is not baking, but she can bake really well. She did a bake sale. She raised $3,000 and she put her phones back on. She did not sit in a corner and cry. She found a way. Like I said, her business is it's not bakery at all. But she has a skill and she used it. It's that pushing through that resilience. What can be done? What can I do? It's not about what's going on. Yes, the 10 million, she still wants that 10 million. She's going to get it. But today, what do I do? Today, what do I do? And that is the piece of really moving forward. And I had something that when Renee was talking earlier, Renee, if you remember Renee, the ice cream lady, I can't remember, get the same with her business, forgive me. She kept saying that social media was so great. Social media was so... I want to correct her. She is. She is. Social media was her tool. But the reason her business is where it is today is because of her resilience, not social media. And so really, really think about what is yours? What is your armor that keeps you going? Jeff Bezos, Amazon, he's basically said to be inventive, you have to know how to fail. And we know how much money he's got, right? So he's got a growth mindset. Now, this lady is a psychologist called Carol Dweck. She did a study, she's been studying psychology for years, about what happens when people are faced with a challenge. And she did a study where children did an exam, and some were told, let's see what you can do. And others were, you're going to make mistakes, don't worry about it. The ones who were told, let's see what you could do, when they didn't do well, they shrunk and didn't want to do the exam again. The ones who were told, play with it and see what's going to happen, They were like, oh, okay, let's do it again. So she came up with this theory of not no, but not yet. It's not no, it's not yet. And when it's not yet, there's possibility, there's hope, there's resilience. So think of one thing that you've currently been thinking of that is one of your challenges. Who here is willing to share a challenge that is blocking them right now? Who's willing to stand up and say a challenge they have? And who's doubting themselves? Is that a fixed or a growth mindset? Please stand up. What's your biggest challenge right now? Oh, sorry. We got a mic.
I can throw my voice.
All right.
A really big challenge that I struggle with is like the documentation and the box ticking.
Testing.
Particularly as we try to think about growing beyond local industry and kind of working to get all those certifications and that sort of thing. And it's sort of unrelated, but a tiny little win I had today was this morning when I missed one or two of the sessions, I managed to open an agricultural development bank account. So there was a lot of box form filling.
All right, lovely. So look, just in that, he started with, oh, it was really hard, but guess what? And switched from kind of like a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, looking at what's possible rather than what wasn't. Who else has a challenge here that they're facing right now in their business?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Our challenge is we use a lot of cocoa or cacao in our business, and the shelling of that is a daunting task. What we are doing while we are waiting on getting a cracking device is my brother-in-law, my mother, my sisters, and everybody else, we shell by hand, which is a selling point. It's handcrafted, it's done by hand, you have no shell. So that is our selling point. But I'm looking for that machine.
But hear that, when she said, this is our selling point, she took what could be a challenge and has made it into a selling point. Rather than going, what are we going to do? It doesn't mean, as you're doing, still striving for what you want, but not sitting and going, we can't do it. One more challenge. One more challenge. So I'm going to say, for people who don't want to stand up, what is your voice telling you in your head about you not standing up?
So my challenge is social media. I tell myself I'm too old, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. I've never used ChatGPT. AI frightens me.
Lovely. So, thank you for that. So this is, I just want to make it practical in terms of when you're sitting with a fixed mindset. I can't do that. That frightens me. And what happens, we get held back. We hold back ourselves. So looking at the difference between a fixed mindset or what's sometimes called an expert mindset, a lot of time people think expert is great. But sometimes if we think we're an expert and we come outside of our comfort zone, we shrink back. So be mindful of this expert mentality. So people who have a fixed mindset or an expert mindset, they're about demonstrating mastery. But when you're in a learner or growth mindset, it's about growth. Someone in a fixed mindset, when it comes to challenges, they'll avoid them. So they don't want to look like they don't know. Is that any of us in the room? But if you have a growth mindset, the challenge, bring it on. You're going to embrace it. It's something new. An expert mindset or a fixed mindset, when you tell them about a mistake, they get defensive. But as a growth mindset, you say, that's okay, I can learn from that. A fixed mindset, when it's a deficiency, you start to hide. And I want you to think about this also if you have employees. What is the environment you're creating? Because the way that you operate as a leader of your business can create a fixed mindset in your employees. If you don't embrace the mistakes, ask them to share their deficiencies, they will hide them from you. So if you can show them, create your organization, that you're a learning organization, you're a growth-minded organization, share the deficiencies, so therefore you can overcome them. So really think about how you are as a leader and how you show up in your business so that you create a growth-minded business, not a fixed-minded business. And the last one is around setbacks. From a fixed mindset, you get high backwards setbacks. But with a growth mindset, you persist. And I come back to Renee. She talked about persistence. I persisted, I'm resilient. So she was a perfect example of a growth mindset. So just before I move into positive intelligence, just things to think about. Recognize your fixed voice. And we all have it. We may not all live in the fixed mindset all the time, because the fact you're entrepreneurs in this room, you do not live in a fixed mindset world. But there will be situations where your fixed mindset comes into play. So whenever you hear yourself say, I can't, it's too hard, I can't push through that, that's your fixed mindset. First thing is to recognize it, because who's the person you speak to the most every day? Yourself. Whether people want to agree with it or not, you talk to yourself the most every day. And a lot of the times we are not conscious of what we are saying. But if we can slow our minds down, we can go, oh, I heard myself say I can't. Oh, I heard myself say it's too difficult. Oh, I heard myself say it won't happen. And if you can capture that, and you can turn that around. And then really embrace the power of not yet. So again, I wanted to look at each other and just tell each other, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. So think of one thing that is your biggest challenge right now. You don't have to share it with me. Think of the thing right now that is giving you the most headache. And just tell yourself, not yet. Not yet. All right. Let me do a time check. I know I'm supposed to anyway. Can I keep going? All right. And everyone's still sitting and everyone's awake still, so I'm going to keep going. All right. So the next area is around positive intelligence. And this is really about building a mental fitness. We hear a lot of talk about emotional intelligence, which is about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship building. But there's positive intelligence, which is kind of the foundation of that. It's how we stay positive in difficult times. And there's a science behind it. It's not just about, oh, feel good and everything will be okay. It's got to go beyond saying it here and feeling it in here. That's what's real, because that's where we resonate from. So, anyone who's really curious, there's a book called Positive Intelligence by someone called Shazad Shamin. He's a Stanford University lecturer, CEO, coach, etc. And he created this methodology which looks at neuroscience, positive psychology, performance science, and came up with this framework. Now, positive intelligence is really about your capacity to push through life's challenges. Oops. And it has an impact. When we work from and live from a place of positive intelligence, it impacts your performance, it impacts your well-being, and it also impacts your relationships. I'll give you a quick example or story. Actually, I'll hold that. So what positive intelligence talks about, it's like there's two sides of us. We've got our left brain and our right brain. And we're pulled in two different directions. The saboteurs are the negative emotions that push us, be it fear, anger, insecurity, shame. And on the sage power, it's really what's the positive that's pulling us. Curiosity, empathy, innovation. And depending on how we see something, it depends on what side of the brain we work from. And the power of positive intelligence is being able to take control of this. If we do not take control of our mind, it will take control of us. So being aware of what you're saying and why you're being triggered allows you to change how you think about something, and how you change how you think about something is how you change how you behave about something. Sometimes I'm working with clients and they might be saying, oh, I also work in corporate as well as with entrepreneurs. And let's say they say, it's a leader, and they say, you know, this particular thing really irritates me, and I get annoyed at this particular staff member. And they say, but it's written on my face. So they say, you know what, I need to change my face. And I say, no, you need to change how you think about that person. Because how we think is shown on our face. How we feel comes in how we speak. So someone says, good morning. Good morning. Are you okay? Yes. The words are saying good morning and they're saying yes, but that's not how they're feeling. And we have to realize we may think we're hiding what we're thinking and feeling, but it's coming out. So if we can take control of this, we are congruent. So that is why it's so important. Now, this is a whole science, and I have a 6-week course on this and all of this, so that this is a real drive-by. So your saboteurs are things that are triggered when you're angry or scared or feeling embarrassed. The main one is the judge. You're so stupid. You should have known better. You're such a failure. That's the judge. Anyone familiar with that voice? The judge not only judges you, but it also judges others. Well, look at her. Look at him. He thinks he's so great. She don't know nothing. He thinks he's an expert, but he ain't. That's the judge. Yes, I'm seeing some of you smiling. And then the other judge is also about the situation. That's really tough. That's no good. So be mindful of the judge, because the judge shows up everywhere. Now, the judge has some friends. And the friends are his accomplices. And there are 9 of them. You've got the controller, who wants everything done their way and holding on to everything. Now, as I'm going through these, you might identify with a few. Then you've got the hyperachiever, reaching for the stars, nothing's never enough, gotta keep going, overpack everything. Oh, I'm seeing somebody's looking around. I don't read mind, but I read bodies. Then you've got the restless person who's always doing something, never can't keep still. The stickler, it has to be like this. This is the order. It must be 1, 2, 3, 4. It can't be 1 and 6. No. No bending. Then you've got the pleaser. Oh, yes, I'll do that. I'll do that. Don't matter, beat me up, that's okay. I'll do that. I'll keep doing it. You've got the hypervigilant. Okay, you know what? They're after me. They're after me. It's not my fault. They're after me. They're after me. Then you've got the avoider. I'll put that off till next week. Actually, next month. I won't call that client today. I've got an email to write. The victim. Well, the bank just won't give it to me. I just can't keep going. Woe is me. It's not my fault. I haven't got any clients. It's not. And the last one, hyper-rational. Well, the only thing you need to do is 1, 2, 3. Who recognizes themselves in any of those? Oh, please, please, please. Who doesn't recognize themselves? Thank you. Now, what I want you to realize is that a lot of times we think this is us, but it's not. It's a behavior. And if we, through positive intelligence, if you can, like, it's kind of like you separate yourself from it, then you can see it, and because you can see it, you can address it. But when you think it's part of you, you go, well, that's just who I am. That's a cop-out. Because when you say, this is who I am, then you say, there's nothing you can do about it. But if you peel the saboteur out from you and see it, you can now address it. Because it's a behavior, it's not you. And it's learned because of things that have happened. And it's like, it talks about neuroscience. So you think about, you're driving somewhere, and it's a familiar route, but that particular day, you're not going to that destination, you're going somewhere else, and somehow you find yourself going where you weren't supposed to be going. You should have gone right, but you went left, because you always go left. That's because your mind, you think you're awake, but you're not. You're living in your head. And that's part of the positive intelligence, recognizing that you are in your head, which is why I asked you all, look around the room and look for something you haven't seen before. Because you thought you knew what was in this room until you stopped to actually see. So if you can pull the saboteur away from you and go, I see you, stickler. I see you, controller. Then now you're facing it. You can do something about it. Now, if you want, you can go on positive intelligence. You can do it. There's a whole survey on there for you to understand what your top saboteurs are. Just type in positive intelligence, saboteur test, saboteur assessment, right? It can reveal some interesting things. Now, so we know what that is. We've worked out what our saboteur could be. So how do we push through and create a positive mindset, positive intelligence mindset? So first, as I said, look at the saboteur. Trying to talk like that. Look at the saboteur as opposed to through the lens of the saboteur. Does that make sense? Look at it, not through it. And a lot of times, because we don't know the difference, we're looking through it. So if you can peel it away and look at it, you've separated yourself. So that's the first thing. So then now you've separated yourself from it, and you'll tend to find it when you are triggered. Something happens to you and you feel angry or upset, or one of your saboteurs and the judge are having a party. And not a Marshall party, a different kind of party, right? So now that you know that, now become present, because when you become present, you interrupt the pattern. The pattern is to go angry and behave a certain way. But if you are able to separate it and you become present, what they call a PQ rep, which is a positive intelligence rep, and all that is, do this with me. Just take your two fingers and rub them together slowly and feel the ridges of your fingertips. Can you feel the ridges? Can you feel the ridges of your fingertips? Normally when you just worry, you don't really think. But when you go slowly enough and you pay close attention, you can actually feel the ridges. Or you can look around the room, as we did earlier, and look for something. Focus on something, like the green exit sign. The blue and white of my dress does not, don't look here. Why are you laughing? All right? So a PQ rep is just about snapping yourself back to now. It's about interrupting the pattern of the fear, the anger. It's bringing yourself so you don't follow the pattern you always done. So rub your fingers. You can take deep breaths. Anything that touches your senses. You don't have to go into a meditative state and stay there for half an hour. What PQ is, you can do it in 10 seconds. You recognize the saboteurs come on. I can look at that lady's pink blouse, and that brings me back to here. I can rub my fingers, brings me back to here. I can wiggle my toes. Anything to bring you back to here and interrupt the pattern. Now you've interrupted the pattern, you can consciously, intentionally choose how you move forward. not reacting to something that happened ages ago. But you're here and you're here now. And it's a simple technique, but it's a muscle. Every time you tap into that PQ rep, you're building the muscle. The more and more you do it, you're changing the pattern. But it's a constant, like going to the gym. You can't do that, overall, pick a heavy weight up straight away. This is something. So throughout the day, just take 10 seconds, rub your fingers, wiggle your toes, bring yourself back to now. Make that part of your day. A lot of, I haven't got time to slow down. I haven't got time to slow down. I've got stuff to do. You take that 10 seconds just to come back to self. You re-energize yourself, and you're consciously working on what you're working on. And then the last area is that you engage what he calls your sage powers. Now, in positive intelligence, what the premise is that everything that happens is a gift and an opportunity. Every single thing. That is the mindset of positive intelligence, no matter what it is. Now, doesn't necessarily mean you feel it at the same time, but you go with that premise. This is a gift and an opportunity. And if you look at the situation like that, you will start to see it, because your brain will answer what you tell it. That's why it's important to take control over your mind. Now, the sage powers, there's 5 of them. There's empathy. So this is how you move into the right side of your brain when you interrupt that pattern. Something happens, you have empathy for yourself. A lot of time when we hear about empathy for others. But what about empathy for me? Giving myself that empathy. You messed up. That's okay, Georgina. You'll learn next time. As opposed to judge, you're so stupid, Georgina. Why did you do that? You should know better. You give yourself empathy, but you also give empathy to others. I know she might be getting angry, but I wonder what's triggered them. I wonder what happened with them. That allows you, even just when you think about that, it changes your whole energy about how you see the person. Then there's the explore. Being curious about the situation. Not, I wonder what that happened for, but I wonder why that's happening. I had a situation where, now, some disclosure, when I did the assessment a while back, my saboteurs were avoider, hyperachiever, what's the third one? And stickler, right? And it was a great awareness for me. So when things go off, I can see why I was getting upset. Now, I had a meeting with one of my team members, and she was being really stroppy that day. And I could feel myself getting upset. And something said, don't say anything. The Georgina of past would have said, what's going on? I left it. The meeting ended, and I said, okay, your stickler was being triggered. You should behave in a particular way. And I said, okay, let me calm down. I wonder what was going on with her. Not, I wonder what was going on with her. I wonder what was going on with her today. So you know what I did? I called her. And I said, I noticed today you weren't yourself. What's going on? And she said, you know what? I woke up today with a really bad migraine. I didn't want to come to the meeting, but I pushed through because I knew we had stuff to do. Now, if I'd operated in my old self, that's not the kind of conversation we wouldn't have, and she would have been upset that she even came to work. But the fact I was able to go in from a place of curiosity and not judgment of her behavior, we had a really open conversation, and she felt cared about because I called her and asked her what was wrong. So when we can slow ourselves down, recognize we've been triggered, but interrupt that and tap into a sage power, it does well for us, it does well for others, and it allows us to have better relationships. The other sage power is innovate. This is a lovely exercise. I've done this with clients. Sometimes you might hear something from someone, you think, that's really stupid. Who's that speaking? If you hear something and someone says, you say to yourself, that's a really stupid idea. Who's talking? Who's talking? The judge. Thank you. So, in this, there's a great exercise with the innovate. This is the premise. 10% of everything you hear is right. At least 10% of everything you hear is right. And if you start from that premise, so when someone says something to you, you can say, I like what you said about this, and. So you take the piece that you like, and you build on it. Normally we look at the whole thing and take the whole thing and go, that's nonsense. Take the piece you like and build on it. And if you keep building on it together, you get something greater. Joel talked about collaboration and co-creation. If you use that, you come to something greater, rather than you shut down that idea and it's my idea. But if you take pieces of each of yours and build on it, you find something much greater. And you allow the judge to put the judge to bed, and you look with what I like about that it is, and you keep building. It's a really powerful exercise. Oh, sorry. Then you have navigate. This is where you're faced with something and you're challenged with it, and you push to your older, wiser self and say, at the end of my life, how important is this really going to be? Am I really going to be bothered about this when I'm 80, 90, 100, 150, because I'm going to live that long? Is it really going to be that important? So you're able to look at it from a different vantage point rather than this huge mountain. And the last one is activate, which means you take the action, but from a place of calm and confidence. So as you look at the sage powers, which one resonates with you? Now, it's not a linear process. You can use any, you draw on them whenever you come, whenever you faced with something. But what would be your first go-to? Would it be empathize? Would it be explore? This is being curious. Innovate, building on each other's ideas? And would it be navigate? Who's for empathize? Who would navigate to empathize first? There's one person still with me. Lovely. 2 people. And give you kisses. 3 people. I'll run around and give 4. Who would go for explore? Okay. Who doesn't care? Right now, it's like 3:30. Who doesn't care? Who would go with innovate? Who would go with navigate? Nice. And the thing is, as you start to become more aware of the sage powers, different ones will kick in based on what's going on. I've realized, for me, that I like to go to the explore, because I realized my judge was really loud. And so now it's more like, I wonder why that's happening. And if I keep giving myself, I wonder why, I stay in curiosity mode. And I quieten the judge. I wonder why. It's a very powerful process. I was talking to a client last night, a new client. And through the conversation, let's say she's a pleaser. Just to give you an example of how the saboteurs can impact you. So she's a pleaser. I said, why do you do what you do? Because I love to help people. But when we're having the conversation, she's upset with a particular client. I said, why are you upset? She goes, I don't know. They're really getting on my nerves. I don't want to do the work. I don't think I enjoy what I do anymore. So the more we dug and we were through the coaching, what it came at is because she's a pleaser, the scope of the work has increased. And she does no longer feel she's being compensated for the work. So her pleaser has now become a bit like a noose. And until we were doing the coaching, she hadn't realized the reason she was not enjoying the work is because her helping nature has now made her annoyed. So when we start to the reason I'm sharing that, by her realizing that, we were able to have a conversation about how she can have a conversation with her client about the scope, but speak from a place, one of the sage powers. And one of them was empathy for the client, because the client didn't know the extent of the work when they originally took her on. And she was judging the client, but through the conversation yesterday, she was able to now see empathy for the client, because part of her role was to share with the client the work had changed. So by the time we finished that coaching session, she was in a very different headspace than she was when we came into the call. So when you start to understand your saboteur and what's triggered and tap into your sage, you can navigate that and have a much better conversation. Because she was going to have a conversation with that client. But thankfully, when we finished coaching, she was going to have a very different conversation with her client. And she also realized that she hadn't valued herself. She'd made the client be more than her, then seen it as a mutual relationship. And she saw where the pleaser in her had made her feel less than. And when she was able to reposition it, she saw themselves as equals, so therefore she could have a conversation with her equal rather than on her own. I'm going to quickly just look at here, because I know Hayden's telling me to come off. 5 minutes. I'm going to finish before that, actually. So, just as I'm finishing here, a lot of time we think about leadership, there's different levels. There's leading self, there's leading others, there's leading teams, there's leading your business. But a lot of times people don't think about the leading self part. Make sure you are leading you. Not your emotions are leading you. Not your uncontrolled thoughts are leading you. Same way you want to lead others. Lead yourself. I say to some clients when something's going on, I say, can you go and look in the mirror, please? They'll sit and I go, no, actually, go and look in the mirror and talk to that person, because that's the person you need to talk to first. And I physically get them to go up and look in the mirror. Because it's always easy to look outside. Look in the mirror. If something is not going the way you want it to go, the first conversation is with you. Then have the conversation with someone else, if it's now needed. So, a challenge for you. I'm a kind of person, I like to give information, but more importantly, I like that information to be used. People say knowledge is power. Big, fat lie. That's a nice comfort. Oh, knowledge is power. It's not. Knowledge is potential power. Action is power. So, whenever I talk, I like to give some actions. Because I would say to clients, or people I'm speaking to, the real work doesn't happen here. This is where we light a fire. But for it to really grow is when you leave this room and put what you've heard, whether it's from me today or any speaker you've heard today, and put that into action. That's when you've made all the hours you spent today worthwhile. You took a day out of your business or maybe 2 days if you were there yesterday. Make this work for you. It's all about ROI. That's even time. So, for my element, commit to one small PQ and do it daily. I should really put there, do it throughout the day for the next 7 days. Look at the carpet, guy in the white shirt. See the carpet, don't just walk on the carpet. Be present, bring yourself back to here, just 10 seconds. So you're conscious of how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and move again. We can all take 10 seconds every so often. You're building that mental muscle. And the second one is identify one fixed mindset that you need to reframe. What is that one thing you keep telling yourself, I can't, it's too hard, and reframe it. At least say not yet. At least say not yet. At least say not yet. Thank you, everybody.